Next, you have Sonic and Knuckles. This thing, it has a physical gimmick, the lock-on cartridge. As I recall, it's the only lock-on cartridge in existence, which was really nice for this system. I'm glad they didn't do it for others. I mean, can you imagine locking in Earthworm Jim to Booger Man and playing as Booger Worm Jim? Hell no. This made a nice gimmick for the Sonic series. We'll get to it later, but first let's take a look at Sonic and Knuckles itself. As you can see, the 3D intro, the games, they're starting to get a little more 3D and fancy, at least for their openings. You can play through as Sonic, and you know, it's a pretty standard affair for Sonic. He does his spin dashes, he does his jump-ins, you know. It's pretty much similar for Sonic, except you get some, see that nice aspect with the poles, yeah, they improve things. But, you know, let's go back to the beginning, and this time, we're gonna play as Knuckles. Now, Knuckles, again, it's a standard affair where you play as a new character with different powers, but this time, they actually incorporate that extra character into the story. You see, they had these little animated cutscenes, which were kind of rare. They started using them in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. You know, they had a lot more of them in this game, though. And, hello, what's this? Look, Knuckles starts in a different part of the level than Sonic did. Yeah, that's what they were doing. Besides being able to explore levels with different powers, like Knuckles climbing walls and gliding, they also had him have his own levels so that it made a more unique experience. Of course, the name of the game is Lock-On, so let's connect Sonic 3 to Sonic and Knuckles, which, in my opinion, creates the ultimate Sonic title for the Sega Genesis, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Now this is the ultimate game. It's huge. It has the game save feature from Sonic 3 and all the levels from both games, and you could play through as Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails and complete the ultimate quest, collecting the Chaos Emeralds and the Super Emeralds. That's 14 Chaos Emeralds to collect instead of just 7. And what's the reward for doing so? The ultimate power, Hyper Sonic. What's Hyper Power? He can destroy all the enemies on the screen without touching them. Yeah, they gave him this cool double jump move, and every time he uses it, every enemy visible on screen just blows up. This is one of the awesomest things that Sonic Team has ever done. I've yet to see them do anything quite as cool as this. You just leap into the air, and then boom, everything dies. And you also unlock the powers with Knuckles. I mean, you have his gliding. You know, locking on the cartridge allows you to play as Knuckles in Sonic 3. He wasn't playable when Sonic 3 first came out, except in multiplayer. But once he gets those 14 emeralds and can become his hyper self, Flash, don't you just love that Dragon Ball Z style transformation? Notice how fast he glides? That's part of his power. See, as Knuckles glides, when he hits the wall at a fast speed, he creates a shockwave, which also blows up all enemies. There. You saw how the screen shook? That's Knuckles' power. And Tails. You can play it through as Tails, and the thing with Sonic 3 is, Tails couldn't transform into Super Tails, even with the 7 Chaos Emeralds. But once you play as through Sonic 3 and Knuckles and get those Super Emeralds, then you can unlock what's perhaps the greatest power in all the games, Super Tails. Yeah, look at that. He gets surrounded by minions. These little super flickies follow him around, and they actively hunt down and destroy all enemy badniks. You don't have to do anything. You just have to run around, and you're invincible. You can literally just stand in one spot and let your flicky minions destroy the level bosses for you. Now, let's hook up Sonic 2 to the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge. And we get the same old intro. Oh, it looks like nothing happened. Oh, wait, what's this? Knuckles in Sonic 2. Yeah, I thought it was really cool of Sonic Team to make it so you could play through the entire Sonic 2 game as Knuckles. I mean, Knuckles wasn't even conceived as a character when this game was made, but there he is. Anyway, let's move on to Sonic 3 Blast. the gimmick of this one, of course, is that it was the first Sonic game to make full use of a 3D environment. Now, 3D environments were all the rage at the time, well, with PlayStation on the horizon and stuff. So let's take a look. And as you can see, it's kind of pixelated, but you know, for when this game came out, this was actually pretty impressive. But if you look, Sonic's running kind of slow, isn't he? That's the tell for this game. Not all gimmicks are a great thing, and the 3D aspect of Sonic 3D Blast was pretty a pretty poor example. I mean, look at this balloon figure that purports to be Dr. Robotnik. You can see that 3D does not equal realistic. So we get some 3D dialogue, and when the game starts, it looks very nice. You have a nice, fully rendered environment. Everything's bright and colorful as usual. But you notice that everything's not fine on Flicky Island. No, Sonic's iconic speed has been taken from him. I mean, you don't get the impression that you're jumping as high because you're looking at it from a 3/4 perspective, and just trying to take out these badniks is just terrible because it's so hard to aim from this perspective. I mean, look, half the enemy characters just stand in one place so that you can take your time to line up and hit them precisely. This isn't how Sonic... Sorry about that interruption. So, as I was saying, Sonic's sword is actually a relatively minor gimmick when you compare it to all the gimmicks that his series has had since its inception, and I think it stands pretty well as a game, and it doesn't really change gameplay enough for people to warrant disliking it. Sonic and the Black Knight is a fantastic game, and I barely scratched the surface. I still have to do the 2 spin-off games, which is Spinball and Mean Bean Machine, and then there's the entire next generation from the Dreamcast era to today. Like I said, practically every game introduced uses a new gimmick, and that's what has kept Sonic fresh all of these years. Sure, the gimmicks don't always work, but that doesn't mean you should dismiss them because of it, or else you would have stopped playing games once Sonic 2 came out. So, look forward to my next video. Bye bye.